Uh-huh.
Is are alt-right, or I'm sorry, is Myth Vision and Gnostic Informant alt-right?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
And the question, I mean, in some ways, I actually think the answer here is no. I think Derek and Neil um, are just idiots who, for some reason, have platformed one or two alt-right people.
Yes.
But I think that one has to say that they have culpable idiocy here. That I mean, there's some big problems here in the United States and our culture when it comes to justifying colonialism.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to use France's secularism as an example of how opposing um, fundamentalism sometimes can be a cover for supremacism.
Yes.
So I think everybody is critical of excesses of abuses in religion and institutions, whether it be military, corporations, or spy agencies. The proxy
Yes.
war these days, when you look around the world, is a nightmare.
It is,
One
and
of the
it's about to turn into a hot war from what it looks like.
So the scandals that I've been working on for the last year, I think the biggest one that's been coming out lately, thank all that is holy, the one, the real, the merciful, and compassionate. Um, so what I had been working on is a youth protection situation, and I don't know if anybody has seen the movie Sound of Freedom. But there is this bozo in America
Hmm.
who likes to use boogeyman stuff and essentially supported this kind of QAnon type conspiracy. And there was this movie that the essential thesis of the movie is that Tim Ballard was such a hero that he left the CIA to found a not for profit that will go behind enemy lines to rescue children who are being abused by communist militias in South America. And for
Uh-huh.
a low amount of money, you too can support them. And if you're an attractive young lady and want to go undercover with Tim Ballard and be forced into sexual situations with him, don't worry. We've got a job for you. You can be our intern.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, a bunch of the women are suing. I shouldn't laugh because of the abuse, but the abuse turned out to be that this guy was taking money that was supposed to be rescuing children and was abusing his own young ladies who were naive enough to accept that, wow, he must be a hero. He worked for the government.
Yep. That's how it
Um,
is. And look at it this way: for those that were in the CIA, can you truly leave? I mean, who are these people kidding?
Well, here's the thing. I wasn't very successful at going after him for the boogeyman and the um like there was a whole bunch of the thing that actually I feel really broke this up was his use of a psychic and the apparent insider trading
Hmm.
off what seems to be psychological operations and fake news events.
Uh-huh.
As I like to say over and over again, eclipses do not cause massacres. And this was the
Yes.
group that was connected to Glenn Beck and to John Hagee and ultimately to Trump that had these former government workers that were just claiming astrology and numerology would cause end time events. And they
Hmm.
just kept getting the dates around things that look like drills that aren't announced as drills.
Hmm.
So we get a lot of fake news. And in this type of world, um, when I'm that's what I'm doing in my main time, is trying to expose that. And the likely scenario that Netanyahu may have deliberately wanted to be attacked and ignored Egypt's warning. It now appears that enough people in Israel accept that scenario, particularly because I believe this week Netanyahu is now trying to change the rules to make it so that he would get to appoint the people who investigate him.
Yes.
So this is for many people who were of the belief that it really looks like he intentionally allowed this emergency to occur so that he could create a crisis to stay in power, that enough people in Israel actually believe that I thankfully can stop talking to them and focus on what I like to do best, which is fighting human trafficking. Because Israel, if they're drafting troops from the Golan Heights, which is annexed territory, violates a whole bunch of laws that it's just ignored within the United States, that says that annexation and human trafficking of youth are unacceptable.
That's right. I mean, Israel has violated every international law and treaty. I mean, recently they even banned the Secretary General of the United Nations from even going there. So these people are saying that we are above the law and we can get away with everything. And I think they're going to find out the hard way as the chickens are coming home to roost for not only Israel, but for the U.S. for their involvement.
There is many things that I think are very disturbing going on, and it's important to not stand with the problem. And that brings me back to this guy who I will call, to my understanding, he's Mr. Prometheus himself, the
Mm-hmm.
Lightbringer, Jason Riza Georgiani. He is a half American, half Iranian. And this guy's Wikipedia page, um, when I finally looked him up, because I had accidentally, without knowing, listened to this guy for a couple hours, because I've listened to Myth Vision and Gnostic Informant.
Uh-huh.
These are I don't know, pages I kind of just thought of fun ways to sort of unwind while I'm studying ancient manuscripts, because they might tell me of a different manuscript that references something. Anyway, I didn't really take um, these pages to be as political as I really should have, but the
Mm-hmm.
algorithm was supporting them, and that should have given me a clue that there had to be some dark and evil NATO conspiracy to back Western propaganda if you're getting free hits on YouTube. Or it
That,
seems like that's just always the case these days, because this um, this Giorgiani, did you get to see the page of this guy?
I'm looking it up right now as we speak.
So some of the things, like how he lost his job and why, supposedly is he was talking about how the future of Europe is going to have a bunch of concentration camps if people don't listen to him.
Okay.
And apparently, um, he's got this flag that looks like four fires. I mean, this guy looks like he's trying to be the American Dugan, almost as if somebody read it off of a playbook and said, okay, we need somebody to package Duganism and put it into stuff people will do research on when they're young adults. Like practically, I mean, he's basically doing commentary on myths and fairy tales. And this guy has what looks like a spinning cross flag that's dedicated to national renewal and far right causes.
Uh-huh.
He's like the former editor of a far-right publication. Seems to have involved in a really bizarre spycraft situation called Jellyfish. And I have
Hmm.
to admit, I don't actually know if this is entirely his fault, because in some parts it looks like it's a sting operation. The FBI ended up arresting somebody that tried to get him to do stuff um, linked to coups and plots and stuff. So whether or not that was actually him, but his involvement was also with Steve Bannon and with um, Richard Spencer, with the creation of Alt-Right Corporation, which I guess he then supposedly left because he didn't like how prejudiced and ethnocentric they were, as if that was somehow a surprise.
Oh yeah,
But
I just checked out this guy's Wikipedia, and I mean
he's the
it's right
devil.
there. He's definitely an intelligent psyop asset of some kind.
Like it's not even like like it cannot even be like, it's either he's trying to overthrow governments or the government had reason to think that he might be, and that's why that happened.
Yep.
Whether or not that was entirely fair, I mean, who trusts the government? But the other stuff he's doing is disturbing completely and ridiculous. Like,
Uh
if you
huh.
look up this guy on YouTube, like, you will find hours and hours of video and nobody challenging him on any of that stuff that's on his page. You would think this was just the average new age goof that gets some of his dates wrong, um, and is, you know, upset that the world doesn't go how he dreams it could. Like, what philosopher is satisfied with the current situation in the world, after all? But yeah, like, you will find page after page. Like, I think Ayahuasca Magic interviewed this guy, and um, I, one of the things I have to be so grateful for is the FSO, Wahid Azal. He's been very clear on this infiltration of right wing stuff into New Age spirituality, and it is disturbingly pervasive. Like, I wouldn't have thought just sort of letting the next video click on YouTube, and I'm trying to research someone's theory of some interpretation of, could this part of scripture be referencing this idol or this magical conception from the Near East or the Mediterranean.
Yep.
And once you're just doing a little bit of research, the algorithm is promoting somebody who's a very dangerous, disturbing individual.
Yeah, that's right. And the reason they get hits from the algorithm and have a high amount of views and subscribers is because they are part of that machine, which is not on the side of humanity. And this guy here, he's a part of that whole paradigm of that whole psyop, where he's got wealthy people behind him, backing him. He's involved in these different groups and organizations, and that's the thing about these individuals, to because he claims to be at the PhD level. And the Western Ivory Towers, that even Sheikh Wahid Azal says that even to get that PhD, you have to agree to their system and to perpetuate their system, even in your own dealings and educations and wherever your life takes you. So he is a part of that Western Ivory Tower, which is colonialism, racism, globalism, whatever their goals and agendas are. So these people need to have common sense and not fall into the traps of these intel agency informants and psyops.
I will definitely need to be like Googling every single person I am listening to and getting their background. And then
You
after
have to.
Google, then rechecking that with a different search or something. Because, yeah, Yeah, so then I suppose further investigation of Myth Vision and Gnostic Informant, I think also has led me to believe that it's not that these guys didn't do their due diligence like I did. They are sort of doing something not unlike, I don't know if you've ever heard of Sean Hannity and Alan Combs, but Sean Hannity is a Shonen trader, Irish guy, and he would have Alan Combs on as sort of this fake liberal Jewish guy to debate with. But
Yep, yep.
Alan
I'm
Combs was this
familiar.
particular weak kind of debater, and he'd always kind of want to make peace with the right. And so he'd be kind of debating in this sort of false way where it was just to sort of make right-wing ideas look better by giving a weak Democrat-esque voice a platform on his show. I kind of feel that these programs, when they appear to be balanced, are doing that and trying to steer the window farther and farther to a more patronizing, condescending Western view that it's okay that we're gonna like colored folk shouldn't be able to adjust their own cultures as they need to protect their workers. You need us to protect your youth and manage your workers. Oh, and your resources while we're doing that. Which I don't think that's going to work out peacefully. I don't think, considering what I was talking about with Tim Ballard earlier, that anybody outside of America wants America to protect their children and tell their women how to dress and tell, you know, they have to fix their own standards when they're not being oppressed by us. We don't get to tell
Yes.
them how to fix things and seize power while we pretend to fix things, but then don't. Usually we only support things that don't work and then take advantage when they collapse. And I think a lot of people are realizing how duplicitous and double-faced, like even if you get the Democrat president, what has Biden really done to stop genocide in Gaza and the expansion of this conflict, or even bring the truth out about why these people are captive in the first place? It seems like he is doing nothing.
That's exactly right, my brother. And even if you look at the concept of Project Mockingbird, right? You have these intel agencies in America, specifically the CIA, who are telling you that we are involved in every aspect of media and programming and the news and things like that. And the candidates of other, whether it's the vice presidents or the American presidents or candidates or debates, they're all there trying to prove their loyalty for Israel, right? Oh, I love Israel more. But what about the American people? I mean, the people here that need help, right? They're busy passing aid for Israel, but you got people here in your own country that are suffering, whether it's from homelessness, medical issues, financial issues, women, children, the vulnerable uh, people here was suffering from natural disasters with the hurricane. So these people are saying that we're not here to serve you, we're here to serve Israel and colonialism and the military industrial complex and the intel agencies. So the American people need to wake up and know that their enemies are not black and brown people thousands of miles away. Their enemies are right here in their own land, which are
It,
suppressing them.
the weather right now, event, the storm, it is an amazing amount of devastation brought in part by negligence on energy and climate policy.
Yes.
And um, we, instead of being prepared and ready to help and mobilize, we most of our government is directing military aid to various proxy conflicts or trying to put out fires that we negligently created in the first place. And with so much of our military being focused on managing how we're exploiting resources and transferring it in various areas where it's not clear why we're involved in the first place. Um, like one can debate whether or not China belongs in the South China Sea, but what does America belong there for?
It doesn't have any business there.
I can't figure it out directly. I mean, the business we're doing there is business like three nations away, and somehow we're claiming it as our own. And that's just our typical method. There might be something unfair going on somewhere, but what exactly makes it our reason, and why should anyone trust us, considering the circumstance to this point? But yeah, it seems that a large portion of our child protection stuff about youth trafficking is more about border control. We kind of repurpose things that sound good as euphemisms, and ultimately, it only appears that even when it becomes a liberal talking point, it's still only about power.
That's
We'll
right.
we'll just sort of repackage it with a Democrat talking point, but we'll be doing something remarkably the same. So, like for border issues now, or security issues now, and on most foreign policy issues now, it's like the candidates are remarkably close together. I think in policy and temperament, there's pretty significant differences, and a lot of people are going to be terrorized if there's right-wing victory here. But at least on paper for platform, it's disturbing how both sides are in on continuing the very problems and the very lies. And part of that starts in, propaganda directed at the youth. That's why I think that when people look at what um like even people like Dan McClellan, who's considered like the woke professor these days,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just a good example. You end up, you look at the guy, and similar to some of these other programs, he's putting a check on fundamentalism here in Western culture, but he quickly pivots, I think, to always support the interpretations, the closest scholarly interpretation he can for the greatest legitimacy to Zionism just
Uh-huh.
seems to be um like I find it odd that he prefers the Hebrew Bible to the Samaritan Pentateuch, because I mean there's no manuscript of the Masoretic text to like almost 1000 AD in Moscow. There's just no reason to give that text that has so many more ethnocentric verses in it compared to the older text manuscripts that
Mm-hmm.
exist both in Samaritan and in Greek. Um, I can't understand why he gives preference to the text he does. I guess some of these professors are like, well, if you studied the Hebrew Bible, you've got to state how important the Hebrew Bible is. But um, I think that there is some significant problems in the way this stuff is presented and promoted, and even the people who appear left are only as helpful as Macron's secular France is when he's being an ally to the people in the Middle East. And I mean that in sort of a satire, sarcasm, as you know, only half-hearted word support and not anything to actually change in any tangible way. The people who are in need, people who are desperate, who've been put in refugee circumstances by unchecked military aggression.
Yeah, Stephen, that's right. That's absolutely correct. Right now, we're at a very pivotal time in terms of what's going on in the Middle East and what we're dealing with in terms of the situation here at the home front with the American presidential election coming up. People are frustrated. Things are expensive. People are having a hard time making ends meet, even if they have good professional careers. So things are very uncertain right now in this economy. And God forbid if the war gets hot and the oil supply gets hit or whatever goes down, it's going to hurt the whole population, the whole global population. So, yeah, only time will tell what's going to happen, but it's not headed in a good direction.
Well, I suppose I have wish I had good things to say on some of that. I am just amazed at how incredible the amount of propaganda and youth or young adult directed propaganda I find. Um, hmm. Yeah, here's another YouTube one that's given this Dr. Jason Riza Georgiani a platform. Soul art. Like like ayahuasca magic and soul art. Like some of the so this is why this um sort of fake left only appearing liberal but really part of the colonialist problem, right-wing infiltration of the new age, um, and also just sort of anti-fundamental and secular stuff. But they end up saying the same stuff as the Imam of Peace, Tweety Bird
Oh,
character.
yeah.
And like he's just like that guy, but without the hat. And at the end of the day, he says the same things, and but they want to dress up as though um and I feel like what they're actually doing is taking the power and appropriating spirituality. And
Right.
they're kind of poisoning the well and making it so that, hey, it could be aliens or goofiness when you're just finding a myth or a story about, either I don't know. Any number of stories seem to be twisted into having their power taken away so they can't be used to help people in need, or they're being used to advance really bizarre right wing ideas. And so either side of that tree is poison. And yeah, you cannot trust uh, even when the West comes in peace. There's probably soldiers in the horse, or the olive branch is poisoned, or something, metaphorically speaking. Because yeah, don't trust too many gifts from the Greek, as the Trojan War metaphor would go. It's I'm just looking at headlines from YouTube and how promoted sneakily. Like this isn't like somebody saying Dugan is right. How do we get his ideas packaged up for America? Um, he's instead saying it in this very undercover way where he's looking for people who are at the crossroads of belief, young adults who are deciding which way to go, and literally just sort of researching legends and stories of various cultures and trying to sneak justification for the very things that are causing problems.
Yeah, that's right, Stephen. And even with my experience dealing with the Dietrich character, as you remember, from what I've learned, majority of the people in the truth community, the spiritual conscious community, or anything that's like alternative any kind, right? And they're claiming to be do-gooders or trying to help humanity, or the ones that are telling the truth or trying to help people. Majority of these people are government agents, informants, and they're there to either set people up, do the sting ops, or squeeze info out of people and use it against them, identify enemies of the state, and trap people. I mean, it's all there, right? Each one of these people always have victims or detractors of some kind. So that is the common theme that I've identified.
Well, at some point, I don't want to give this guy too much free publicity. I do feel like I'm going to have to examine some of his ideas just to see where the enemy was going. But I
Uh huh.
think most of it's just more of the same, and there's nothing there to really look at. I'm looking at some of the channels that for some reason, like from what you can just see on his Wikipedia page, like every single word is a red flag. But I get none of that when I look at, like, when I search for him on YouTube. Like, what am I seeing? Simulation, metaphysics, and geopolitics. And I'm seeing him philosophy of the future, break the rules. Like, you get he looks so like the difference from how reading his page from just sort of like clicking on links that are suggested after you've clicked on one of these things.
Uh huh.
It's uh it's absolutely appalling. um this type of thing. Oh, here he's on Jason Giorgiani, redefining parapsychology to image cheapening from Skeptico. And he's just there smiling in his suit. Nothing that would suggest we're here with a, known alt-right sympathizer and former editor of Far Right magazine who's been involved with various spycraft things being exposed. Like none of that linking. Jason Giorgiani, against tradition, break the rules. He's apparently very long-winded. Who has time for 1 hour 45 minutes? Well, on that note, I should probably just sort of sum this up that all of these pages mentioned, like you cannot give have someone as a guest without doing basic research, and any research on this guy will show up all sorts of far right ties.
Yep. That's right.
And but you get almost none of that if you're just searching for videos and getting watching the next video that the algorithm suggests. So on that, to not be as long-winded as this guy, I will just say that we've got to do our best. We've got the foxes guarding the hen house in every possible way,
Yes.
and it took a lot of effort to kind of expose some of the insider trading to help bring down the side of Tim Ballard that people weren't even looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And it took forever to get more of the truth of that, how that boogeyman aspect was being used not to protect children, but to control borders and to abuse women,
Yep. That's
which
pretty
is
much it.
just sadly typical these days. Um, so hope things are going good with you.
Yeah.
Let me
All
know
is
if I can
well.
help you out,
All is well,
and we
brother Stephen.
will catch up with you soon, unless you wanted to add any other comment because I've probably I don't know. I don't think there's more to say other than this guy should not be unchecked by all of these like you should not be able to click on this guy without knowing that you're researching a dangerous fringe character. Like these are softball platform type things where they're just inviting a far right person on. And it's funny because a lot of supposed people who are left leaning will be on these same channels, but you have to wonder if they're giving them both, is it to sort of steer the window?
And I think you hit the nail right on the head. And to add to that, I encourage people to have discernment and have common sense. When you're dealing with anything in media or the truth community or the spiritual community, before you make contact or get involved, or even as a listening participant, even if you do that to the very minimum, have some common sense and look into those individuals that you are supporting. And please know, I cannot stress this enough, that the majority of the people in these communities are part of the government psyops and informants and agents who are there to just put misinformation out there and trap people and identify enemies of the state. So you got to be careful. Don't get involved with these people, and just be careful in these times, right? We're living in interesting times, and I pray peace prevails, even though it's not going to look like it. There is an inevitable conflict that will happen in the age of chaos from 2020 through 2029, which will change the world as we know it. And it's happening now. The power of the world is going to the global south. America is on the decline. The quality of life is declining day by day here. And time will tell in terms of where the next direction or phase of humanity is going to take all of us. And I thank Brother Stephen for his knowledge, his light, and wisdom. I always benefit from it, and I hope the rest of you have as well. So, Brother Stephen, if you please take your time, anything that I failed to ask you, or if you want to add anything, please take your time.
I just want to thank you and the FSO for its guidance. It has been a blessing. I don't think I would have had my guard up to see through this nonsense as easily and fast as I have, and I hope everybody quickly puts this guy in the garbage and the people connected to him.
Thank you.
And
Thank
learns
you.
to do their research and study exactly where the voice is coming from so that you don't give these guys any influence on your decisions, your vote, or how you choose to live your life. Blessings and peace.
Thank you, Brother Stephen, so much. Until next time, Nur alaikum.
Laikum Nur.